I can have a go.
Poetry is just a bit of show-atry, a little puppetry in symmetry, a paltry pedantry of pageantry, a bijouterie in the ministry of sophistry, where peasantry have entry to industry in prosody, balladry,
and wankery,
minstrelry, wankery, and rhythmic artistry. Now, wasn't that a luxury of pleasantry? Mr. Thom Boleyn.
Claude's done one of his own, of course. Keep the alliteration going. I've been not given to, like Slessor, when he hit 50-something, he decided that there was no more left, really, in terms of his own work. But I continue to read poetry and particularly admire things that I find after many years of reading that I've never seen before. A bloke called Charles Harper, some of the serious bush poets here will know of his name. He regarded himself as the first Australian-born poet. His dates are 1813 he was born and died in 1868. Born at Windsor, son of emancipous parents, while working in a post office building in Sydney in the late 1830s, he made some literary acquaintances and contributed verses to Henry Parkes' paper The Empire. And something more local, in the 1840s he farmed in the Hunter Valley, and in 1850 he married a woman called Mary Doyle and wrote a whole series of sonnets to her, which are not known much these days, though I have tracked it down. He was an assistant goldfields commissioner, but the position was abolished in '66. He had a farm called Uroma, was damaged by floods. Son died in a shooting accident. He died at Uroma on the 10th of June 1868. 4 volumes of his work were published in his lifetime, and there's been a few things written about him. This is a poem that's little known. It's penned by him in 1844, and those of you who know me know my interest in Aboriginal stuff, especially to do with an Aboriginal voice. Harper particularly disliked squatters, and this poem is called The Beautiful Squatter. Where the wandering bowland delighteth the eye, befringed with the mile and golden bloomed gorse, a beautiful squatter came galloping by, with a beard on his chin like the tail of his horse, and his locks trained all round to so equal a pitch, that his mother herself, it may truly be said, had been puzzled in no small degree to find which was the front or the back or the sides of his head. Beside a small fire neath a fair spreading tree, a cedar, I think, or perhaps 'twas a gum, what a vision of love did that squatter now see in the midst of a catch so to render him dumb. Why, all on the delicate herbage a squat, and smiling to see him so flustered and mute, 'twas the charming Miss Possumskin having a chat with the elegant lady of Lord Bandicoot. The squatter dismounted, what else could he do, and meaning her tender affections to win, began talking of dampers and blankets quite new, with a warmth that soon ruined poor Miss Possumskin, and Lord Bandicoot also, while dining that day on a baked kangaroo of the kind that is red. At the very third bite, to King Dingo did say, "Oh, how heavy I feel all at once in the head." But alas for the bells of the barn, the youth galloped home to forget all his promises fair, whereupon Lady Bandicoot told the whole truth to her lord, and Miss Possumskin raved in despair. And mark the result, Royal Dingo straightway and his warriors swore to avenge them in arms, and that beautiful squatter one beautiful day was waddied to death in the bloom of his charms.
Introduce the next person.
Oh, the next person is Ron Seuer, a senior figure in poetry. No, you would you like me to introduce someone else, Ron? senior figure in a variety of poetry movements for many years, and it's a privilege to have him.
Blues my name, and I'm a dog. We have a dog in town, right now cows or bulls to chase around, so I chase cars. I bite the patient's leg. I kill the neighbour's chook. That's why I'm tied up down the back, full of feathers, fed and crook. Sometimes they let me in the house, usually Friday nights. My boss goes, traps the pizza and I follows. He eats enormous bloody bites. Like last Friday, excited, I was invited in the house for tea to watch the telly, just me boss and me. Outside the wind blew ferociously across the ridge, like something or other. Oh Jesus, I've forgotten it already, for Christ's sake. Like waves breaking on the beach. I scratched myself a lot because I've got the moan suddenly. And I've forgotten it. But I'll get it back later. I'll do another one. By the sluggish river glider lived a handsome redback spider who was just about as hungry as could be. And the place that he lived in was the Rusty James's James Inn in a paddock by the showground at Marie. Beside him lay oh Jesus, I've forgotten that too. I could have had too much to drink. Legs on too. Beside him lived the swaggy snoozing, and he'd been awake and boozing through the night and half the previous day. And the carnies and the hooters and the noise of showtime scroogers failed to waken from the trance in which he lay. Then a dainty-looking shovel and a dirty-looking squealer came along collecting wood to build a fire. And the squealer said, "Here's a boozer, he's going to be a loser, and you can, if I hate you can label me a liar." Hustle around keeping his honey, said the squealer for money. Why, check the blokes for money. We could be having some luxuries today. She answered, "Don't be silly, here go and boil a billy. You can safely leave the mug to little me." As she circled over the earth, the dirty-looking sheriff, with his pockets bulging, fast asleep at snake, she didn't see the spider ringing round beside her, because the money was on the pocket in the mug. As she reached the sheriff's pocket, the spider darted like a rocket and bit her on the bum. Oh, it doesn't matter. The shield started squealing, the clothes began unpeeling, the hero cries would make you feel forlorn. One hand the bloke was pressing, the other was undressing, and she reached the camp as bare as she was born. What comes next? Bare as she was born. I don't know. That'll do, mate. One drink too many.
Next one is, where's the next one, Ron?
Robert
Bolton. The last time we had a poetry event here, I read some of Bob's poetry here, and he's returned from France to travel the continent.
How would you know I wrote that thing that Thom read? If anyone remembers it, it was a...
No, it's all right.
Oh, the ship was
Well, I'd like to start with a poem that I wrote about 50 years ago. And I was spending the night in a little tin hut in the middle of a huge wheat field with the girl that I didn't marry. And in fact, someone said to me that there's an element of still wondering about the future in this poem. And looking back at it 50 years later, I sort of wish the hell had been a bit more wondering. Anyway, wheat. It's a sonnet, for those who like form. The night wind forced our windows back, and yet walking outside I found you standing there, the house creaking softly in seas of wheat. What are you hoping? The wheat is in your hair, ears, stalks of it billow back at night and fall like yellow candles in the room. Sometimes I've supposed that seasons come like festivals. Year by year this light will burn our love's dim pinpoint on the plain. But wheat blows in the window cracks, and so oceans of life reduced to lines of rain lashing wet wheat seeds past the lantern's light. The dark wind whistles on, yet you sit there, letting the lamp throw wheat gold on your head. Well, I think the chairwoman.
Chairwoman.
Warwick's Widow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Warwick's Widow.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wollombi. I welcome you on behalf of the Wollombi Arts Council. And the poem I'm trying to find is not mine, but it's by a guy called Andrew Hull, who is the president of the Burke Arts Council. And I met many years ago at the Port of Burke Hotel over a bottle of red wine, and he's known as the Bard of Burke, not surprisingly. Anyway, this comes from a small book of poems called West by Andrew Hull, and it's called Coonamble Ramble. I was out taking a ramble on the far side of Coonamble when I took a little amble on the lonely white expanse. I was scrambling through the bramble on my own little ramble in a trance. I glanced a sign enhancing, come perchance. I thought I'd take a chance on a glance at come perchance, and by chance I pranced along just before the local dance. The come perchance dance is a great chance for romance, and I got to chance a glance from the lovely dancer, Nance. It was Nance from Come Perchance who invited the romance, and I thought I had a chance if I could fill her with desire. But in this circumstance, there advanced a man called Lance. He was entranced by Nance, and Lance had come from Never Tire. Lance was the tyre buyer for the Never Tire Shire, and he was fired with desire not to spend the night alone. So he took a chance with Nance at the Come Perchance dance, but Nance fancied her chances with a loner named Ramon. Ramon, as he was known, came from Glargenbone, where he'd only grown alone. So Ramon took the gamble and he did advance his chance with the fancy dance of Nance, rejecting Lance the tyre buyer and this rambler from Coonamble. But lo, the tyre buyer was afire with desire, so he aspired to conspire with the supplier on the phone. He was a prior buyer named Eugene from Hadyn, who was keen to vent his spleen on Glargenbone Ramon. Ramon had come between Eugene and his Doreen. Apologies to Sir J. Jennison on this one, of course. So the lean and mean Eugene was keen to cause a scene. The pair had been obscene, but they had both been seen by Francine and Kathleen at the Barradine canteen. And so the tyre buyer from the Never Tire Shire conspired through the wire with Barradine Eugene, and the circumstance advanced at the Come Perchance dance was that Lance gave Kathleen to Eugene to make him mean. This was only the preamble, and now my Coonamble ramble was scrambled in a shamble and a turn overblown. I I had been and gleaned the scene between Lance and Eugene. I was unknown, I was alone, so I had Thom and phone Ramon. But alone and unbeknown, the phones were out of zone. It was a no-phone zone and a chancy circumstance. But Eugene had grabbed a stone and thrown it at Ramon, and he'd flown into his head bone and put him in a trance. Then Eugene escaped the scene in his shiny green machine, while Ramon moaned and groaned and decided to retire and danced from Cumbie Chance, left the Cumbie Chance dance, and Lance the tyre by, he returned to never tire. So once again I was alone, just like Ramon and Lance. And the chances of romance with Nance were in a shamble, so I took a chance to glance one more time at Cumbie Chance, and I ambled, and I rambled all the way back to Canangle. Peter McDreadnought.
That's a segue.
That's not dreadnought, that's do naught. You stagger through your door, it's the middle of the night, and you try to find a switch to turn on your single light. But the days have been so cloudy and the weather has been polar, and the source of all your power, unfortunately, is solar. So a dim and fading light soon oozes into blackness, and you mutter recriminations about your elementary slackness. You're dying for a coffee and you find a match. Alas, you forgot to fill your bottle and now you're out of gas. You light a fire to warm yourself, but now you're really sad, you're out of wood, there's simply none. The weather's been so bad. So you climb into your bunk, tomorrow's another day, and listen to the winter rain as it washes your road away. But remember your good fortune, you're one of the lucky push who's rejected complex cities for the simple life in the bush. You're woken by your rooster who doesn't give a damn about the fact that it's still dark and just past 4 a.m. You lie awake and recollect, and then your mind goes back and you remember on the way home last night your car fell off the track. And you forgot to get your groceries and there's no food in your shack. And Telecom are sorry, but your phone, Telstra are sorry. But your phone has had the jack. And it's still raining cats and dogs, it's poured the whole night through. And you would have fixed that water tank if only you'd found the glue. Your eyes are sore, your feet are numb, there's a drummer in your head, and weary-eyed and bleary-eyed you stagger out of bed. You're hungry and you're thirsty and you know there's no food in your fridge, and the closest place of sustenance is 9 miles across the ridge. And then you notice something you haven't seen before. A pond 4 inches deep is covering your floor. The wind has knocked your windows out. Your chimney's collapsed. And you know, even if you'd been insured, your policy would have lapsed. So you look around and you look outside, and then your nerve end's really hardened. Fence has fallen down, the wombat's got your garden. And over there's your gumbird sitting on a log. And then you remember last night the other one getting sucked into the bog. You think you might just chuck it in, but where would you chuck it? You decide to fix the leaking roof, or at least to find a bucket. You say aloud, I'll chop some wood, but you wish you hadn't spoken. You know your chainsaw doesn't work, and your axe handle's broken. And it's a 5k hike back down the road to where your car is bogged, and you know if you don't get it out today, it'll be waterlogged. So you fiddle about, you paddle around, and then you scratch your head. And after due consideration, you climb back into bed and dwell on your good fortune as one of the lucky pushers rejected complex cities for the simple life in the bush.
Through me.
Why has it got to be me? Danny Palfreeman.
Why has it got to be me to do a semi-serious one after all the funny ones? Why has it got to be me? All right. If I can undo all this. pinched some of this from a friend, but I amended it myself, so it's not all somebody else's. And it's called Who Am I? And you've got to guess, who am I? I'm the basis of all wealth, the heritage of the wise, the thrifty and the prudent. I am the poor man's joy and comfort, the rich man's prize, the right hand of capital, the silent partner of many thousands of successful men and women. I am the solace of the widow, the comfort of old age, the cornerstone of security against misfortune and want. I am handed down to children through generations as a thing of great worth. I am the choicest fruit of toil. Credit respects me, yet I am humble. I stand before every man, bidding him to know me for what I am and possess me. I grow and increase in value through countless days. Though I seem dormant, my worth increases, never failing, never ceasing. Time is my aid, and population heaps up my gain. Fire and the elements I defy, for they cannot destroy me. I give life to the tribe, to the one genie, to the rainbow servant. I am Rumbalara. My possessors learn to believe in me. Invariably they become envied. While all things wither and decay, I survive. The centuries find me younger, increasing in my strength. I am the foundation of banks, the producer of food, the basis of all wealth throughout the world. And yet I am so common that thousands, unthinking and unknowing, pass me by. Who am I?
Wisdom.
Land!
Land?
Ah.
And that is hay.
I have a poem here that that my father wrote. It's not my poetry, so I hope that doesn't disqualify me from being.
Yes.
And I'm not daring to sort of actually try and remember it. I never could. But my father's actually he has dementia and Parkinson's disease. He's in his 80s, and he was a school teacher for many years. And he lived in I was born when we were living in western New South Wales, a little town called Boleyn, out near Perth. And
No viral. No.
yeah. Oh, great. Oh, really? No. And
Yeah, we know the Carter, we know the Thom. Right.
yeah.
And
It was the head of the railway out there in West, and that was where all the local graziers used to gather their sheep and put them on the train to take them back to market. And he was a school teacher, a little one-teacher school there for about 4 years. I think it was the longest tenure of any school teacher.
What was he sitting to the education department?
Yeah, and it was during for most of those years it was drought and really hot, and I remember, and I've always sort of had an aversion to heat since I think my early experience trying to survive that at that time, and then at the end that last year there was a huge flood, and the whole area was cut off, and they had to be sort of airdropped. But it's a long gamble, but it's this poem. He wrote lots of poetry as well as being a teacher. He was just sort of an amateur poet. He never really published anything particularly, but he wrote lots of stuff. And then a few years ago, I put together a compilation of what I thought were his more interesting penned works, and he was a great admirer, and probably a lot of you have heard of Shaw Nilsson. He's a highly underrated poet, a wonderful poet,
What's your dad's name?
Bevan Wilson. Yeah, and he was, but he was he finished his teaching career at Marrickville Primary School, and it was a sort of central school, and it went up to 4th year high school. But So most of these works come from the 70s and early 80s, and he's retired soon after. But he loved Shaw Nilsson and the sorts of, because he lived out in the, I think it was the experience of living in Barrock in that area, that made him sort of empathise with somebody like Nilsson who came from South Australia and lived in the Maori area and lived a really hard life as a fettler, but possessed this wonderful, intense sort of understanding of poetry, without really sort of fully, grasping what was happening in other parts of the world. He was self-educated, and he was looked upon as somebody who I think sort of encompassed some of the ideas of the French symbolists, symbolist poetry, Mallarmé particularly, at that time, without really sort of knowing his work. So it's one of those sort of strange things where somebody right out in the Western Plains can appreciate and or not even appreciate, but somehow inculcate a feeling that was gathering in the world at the time. Anyway, this is my father's Bevan Wilson's poem based on and it's called In Praise of Shaw Nilsson. Wagons creak and roll on the road of every man's journey, cutting furrows deep into his soul with constant wearing. From Penola they guided the dray, plodding wearily day on day. Into the Wimmera they came. A full circle, studded valley reached, red earth that absorbed the sweat and hope of years, played host to the fierce white stones of settlers' tears. By the sun these tears of death made hard, they lay a galaxy of stars on sobering plains, and hopelessly were gathered once again like common English daisies in red-white meadows, and plied painfully onto the walls and into the hollows, each a bitter piece from broken hearts. A small, frail voice came whispering of flowers, of birds, of orange trees and tears. Few listened then to its enchanting power, and those who did heard in its rustic themes the gentle images of old familiar scenes, of bitterness and the joy of simple pleasures. Heard a violin playing lilting measures, telling the birds in flight and stars in darkness all alike. And in the billabongs of early days, it told of how nature flamed and unashamed. It formed each sound with joy and spoke with growing voice a stronger cry. And in that poor country, no pauper was I. The navvy and the muse transcend the feverish plain, and enter paradise to seek in vain lasting rest among the soft green vines that warn of pleasures in the song of wine. No dancing pleasures only, or girls with flashing eyes, but mystic lights that universal range and glow within us all. Though few can find or even guess that such gay fires exist, but you will find them if you dare persist, to roam the hidden depths of human minds. Bedded down amongst the vines, they rise and brightly shine in every orange tree. If you will only seek, I'm sure you'll find some burning light in every bush, he cries. Plague me no longer, for I am listening like the orange tree. I found my eyes when first his light found me. Slyly you spoke to the violets, the colour of death, and May, with its mushrooms, was all silver-hatted, I guess, and yellow air abounded, and the sky was the colour of island grass, and the paddocks like straw so deadly and pale. A few simple lines in your own words then I must choose. Still will the poor go out with loving words. In the long need, the need for happiness, the poor will feed the birds. And the next person up is the Lenny. The great Lenny. Papantoniou. Yeah, she keeps changing his name.
followed certain people because the poem that I've got is sort of a reflection on what happens when people write and the kind of things that go through your head. It's called The Quiet Moment. What matter all the stars when beauty feigned, tiresome tirades, bedazzled, looking out to windswept hills? Or every turn of the page, books quietly brought out, lived, felt, read, the passage of time, another aspect of eternity. Before he leaps, the mighty song dwells in caves of ease, left turning, sailing in the breeze, a whistle from some faraway shore. Here it comes then, the quiet moment, quiet hours. The pen, mightier than the sword, slashes wildly upon the page.
I'm a bit nervous of microphones, so I'm going to stand next to it.
Okay.
I was very, very lucky when I went to school that I had an English teacher who taught us all that poetry was the cure for any malaise. That no matter how bad you felt, if you went and just randomly opened any book of poetry, that you could read it and you would find something in there that would get you through. And it was one of those things that just always stuck with me. And this is just one of my all-time favourite poems from a poet called Derek Walcott. It's called Love After Love. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome, and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life.
That was Kerrie. I defer to Thom. Boleyn.
I hope the women can find this poem humorous. It's by a bloke called Thomas Lynch, an ex-alcoholic mid-Western American undertaker with Irish origins who had a very messy divorce and felt very sorry for himself. This is called For the Ex-Wife on the Occasion of Her Birthday. Let me say outright that I bear you no undue malice anymore, nor do I wish for you tumours or loose stools, blood in your urine, oozings from any orifice. So this is endless of those ills I do not pray before you. Night sweats, occasional itchings, PMS, fits, starts, ticks, boils, bad vibes, vaginal odours, emotional upheavals or hormonal disorders, green discharges, lumps, growths, nor telltale signs of growth. Dry heaves, hiccups, heartbreaks, fallen ovaries, nor cramps. Before, during or after, I pray you only laughter in the face of your mortality. And freedom from the ravages of middle age, bummers, boredom, cellulite, toxic shock and pregnancies, migraines, glandular problems, the growth of facial hair, sagging breasts, bladder infections, menopausal rage, flatulence or overdoses, hot flushes or constant nausea, uterine collapse or loss of life or limb or faith in the face of what might seem considerable debilities. Think of your life not as half spent, but as half full of possibilities. The arts, maybe, or music, modern dance, or hard rock videos. Whatever, this is to say, I hereby recant all former bitterness and proffer only all the best in the way of happy birthday wishes. I no longer want your mother committed, your friends banished, your donkey lovers taken out and shot, or spayed or dragged behind some Chevrolet of doom. I pray you find that space or room or whatever it is you and your shrink have always claimed you need to spread your wings and realise your insuperable potential. Godspeed is what I say, and good credentials what with your background in fashions and aerobics, you'd make a fairly bouncy brain surgeon or well-dressed astronaut or disc jockey. The children and I will be watching with interest and wouldn't mind a note from time to time to say you've overcome all obstacles this time, to say you've overcome your own half-hearted upbringing, a skimpy wardrobe, your lowly self-esteem, the oppression of women and dismal horoscopes, overcome an overly dependent personality, stretch marks, self-doubt, a bad appendix scar, the best years of your life misspent on wiving and mothering. So let us know exactly how you are once you have triumphed after all, poised and ready on the brink of, shall we say, your middle years. Send word when you have gained by the luck of the draw, the kindness of strangers, or by dint of will itself, if not great fame, then self-sufficiency. Really, now that I've made my hard-won riddance of you, signed and sealed and cooling on the books against your banks and creditors, now that I no longer need endure your whining discontent, your day-long, night-long carping over lost youth, bum luck, spilt milk, what you might have been, or pining not so quietly for a new life in New York with new men. Now that I have been more or less officially relieved of all those hapless duties husbanding a woman of your disenchantment's going to be, I bid you no deposits, no returns, but otherwise a very happy birthday. And while this mayn't sound exactly like goodwill, in some important ways it could be worse. The ancients in my family had a way with words and overzealous habits of revenge whereby the likes of you were turned to birds and made to nest among the mounds of dung that rose up in the wake of cattle herds, grazing their way across those bygone parishes where all that ever came with age was wisdom. His 16-year-old son heard him read that publicly and requested that his father, at least, no longer ever speak it again in public, which we agreed to. They are now happily reconciled.
That was brilliant.
Very good.
That is brilliant.
Robert. No, Ron, you're on again.
Ron, again.
I'm going to try.
Okay. You want to sit down while you do it? Yeah, there's a good seat there.
Is that better? You just find a good place to sit.
Dan's the drunk. He can strike at any time. He gets thrown out of the pub as the minister goes by, late on a Saturday morning. Morning, Rev, says Dan the drunk. You got any good tips today? Well, Dan, and then he replies, lunch would be a good tip for you, I'd say. Well, thanks, Reverend Oldflower, says Dan. I never forget what I'm told. And he mutters to himself, never heard of a horse called lunch. Must be a 2-year-old. Anyway, up he gets and he's back in the pub for his boozing's just begun. Inside the wall there's a dirty big sign that says lunch, 12 to 1. That lunch was worth a chance, and a firm hand grabs the scruff of his neck and the other the sleeve of his pants, and he's back out in the street. But now he's obsessed. That lunch, says Dan, has got to be a goer. I whip down to the Royal and I back him before the odds can get any lower. And away he goes down to the pub at the other end of the street. And halfway down there's a Chinese cafe. That's where he stops his feet. There's a sign in the window that says lunch 11 to 2. Christ, look at the odds now, says Dan. That minister must have knew. I'll shake my arse down at the pub and I'll back before the odds can get any lower. And away he goes. He's nearly there. He lets out a strangled yell. Lunch 1 to 2, says the blackboard sign in the door of the something hotel. Christ, now, so I'm on, says Dan.
missed my chance.
What did you say there?
I've missed my chance.
Hey?
I've missed my chance. Now the answer.
What did you say?
I've missed my chance.
I forget.
She's giving him a cue. I missed my chance.
That was the line.
That's okay. So then the booze starts to take effect. And he slides down.
Do you want to take my cigarette?
No, I'm not coming with the photo shoot. You just keep going.
Anyway, he slowly slides down the wall of the pub. Booze and more booze has taken effect. He sleeps on the way to the slammer, and he wakes when they lock up the cell, and he sees him walking away with the keys, and he knows he's got to yell. I want to know about lunch, says Dan, and I've got a hell of a thirst. Bad luck about lunch, the sergeant yells back, but I'm telling you, sober up first. Sober up first, says Dan. Lays down the floor of the cell. Sober up first. Sober up first. Thank Christ I didn't back lunch.
Yeah. Well done.
No more for me, thank you. Fix me right up.
All right, who are you announcing as the next person, Ronzi?
Let's have a
He
look.
might have another short one, I think, Claude.
All right,
I think he's looking at his list.
right.
Ron Lasoir.
We ask questions. Is that sort of allowable?
Yeah.
I'm interested in, Ron, what made you interested in poetry? What's your sort of, how did that sort of start?
Oh, I'm in the army.
Yeah.
1943 somewhere in Bakerville, there was a bloke who could do half getting poetry. He couldn't do the second half. That's when I become interested. Trying to find the second half of this stuff Boston Digital told me. But I couldn't, so I just read books and started again. Got a stack of them. Hardly know any now.
You're doing well.
Oh, yeah. What else is there?
We're going to have a break and let someone else have a go and then come back again, Ronzi.
Oh, well, as long as I only drink water, I'll be all right.
Yes, it's more Rosie.
Okay, who's next? Introduce the next person, Ron.
Robert Bolton.
Robert Bolton.
Robert Bolton.
Thanks, man.
It's an anchor.
Make something up. Sorry, no, you both thanks to the chairperson. I had a mother-in-law once who could only ever remember the punchlines of funny stories. You should get together with her. There was a bunch of us used to sail from Adelaide down to Kangaroo Island, down the east coast of Gulf St Vincent, which is normally filled with horrible bloody waves that come straight from Antarctica. Apart from for about 6 weeks in February, March, and you can get a sou'easterly, it's sheltered by the land from the sou'easterly, and have a lovely sail all the way down there. And the spot where you know you're sort of left Adelaide's outlying suburbs and you're on your way to Kangaroo Island, is a place called Lady Bay. There's another little sonnet, and it's called Off Lady Bay. My old boat, old love, last night I felt her languorous roll, and the heavy-lidded way she'd bury her shoulder in warm waves. All of our vices were virtues, there was no guilt. The foresail filled with a slatternly fabric whacked, and the sheets drew hard in a gathering wind. Abandoning land, we stretched our hands where stays made slippery shadows on the deck, and gulls held still in the sky. Nothing was noticed but spray and sun and sailing, the gulf's long glitter and ebbing tide, and a pressing together of limbs that only conveyed the ingenuous closeness of rib and plank in the way we raced in the old boat's intimate sway.
Yes, okay. I mentioned
Warwick Squiggle.
Squiggle, yes. Thank you, Bob. I mentioned before the Bar of Burke, Andrew Thom. One of the things about arts councils is that they're really good fun. And the Burke Arts Council sponsors every now and again, when they feel like it, a poet's treat. And it follows in the footsteps of Henry Lawson, Ogilvy and Breaker Morant. And basically it starts at the Port of Burke Hotel, and a whole bunch of people pile into an old bus and take all the old station backtracks and head out through Ford's Bridge to Hungerford, up on the Dolphins, and then around and across to Barrowbank and back to Burke. And it's a wonderful thing to do. It's as cheap as chips. It usually happens in September, the festival season, and you can find it on the web. And I really recommend anybody who's keen on poetry. There's nothing nicer than sitting at the Hungerford pub, which is dates from the 1860s. It's got one of those tin verandas that just goes forever. Listening to the cattle and the cattle trucks lowing and poets reading poetry around the fire drums. It's great stuff. Anyway, I'll read another one of Andrew's poems. It's called Appropriate Enough, Burke. The publican at old Fitz's hotel was watching the stranger approach. He'd be in need of a beer, he could tell, as he'd just come in off the coach. And after a nod to the group at the bar and a long cool draught of beer, the stranger announced that all roads so far had finally brought him to here. He said he knew the weather was good, and he knew there was plenty of work, but while he was here, he hoped that he could find out what was so special about Burke. Now, a publican has a unique walk of life because he gets a unique point of view. So he quietly filled up the stranger's glass and he poured himself one too. That question, he said, as he filled up his jar, is much more complex than you think. But the answer lies at the end of the bar, with those four blokes having a drink. See the bloke on the left? He's a grazier, and a man of some wealth and renown. He owns 1 million odd acres, and he's well respected around town. The dark bloke there is a shearer. He's only just finished a shed. He makes his way in about every 3 weeks for a beer and a comfortable bed. The man to his right is a learned man and a good bloke to have as a mate if you find yourself in trouble, because he's the local magistrate. And the last bloke there is a local man, and he plays a valuable part. You could say he keeps the town moving, because he drives the old dunny cart. Now, said the barman, I've got you confused, I can tell by the look on your face. You ask what's special about Burke, and I don't even mention the place. Well, the special thing is the fact that they're here, all sharing a beer and a joke. The dunny cart man will have to shout next, and the magistrate might blow your smoke. In no place, no other place, would their social stations allow them to all sit down there, but in Burke, none of that matters, and you don't find that anywhere. You see, he said, money and power don't work when you weigh out this way. They don't make you any cooler on a 40-degree summer's day. They don't make you any closer to Sydney when it floods and supplies can't get through. And they don't make you smell any better in drought when 1 bath a week has to do. You can call it mateship
or madness, whatever it is, it seems to work. It's the fact that we're in it together. That's what's special about Burke. It was that stranger's great-grandson who told me the tale. The family has lived here for years, and he told it to me and a big irrigator after we'd had a few beers. And we were joined later on by the mayor, a local bloke just out of work. And I thought, we're all still here, innit? But we're in it together, in Burke.
Indeed. I got a letter from the government today. They want to take my licence away just because I had a few beers. I've had it for 50 odd years. The worst thing that happened indeed is when I crashed into a parked Mercedes and no one was hurt in the slightest when I ran over the top of that cyclist. And I only drove into that shopper because I was trying to avoid a copper. What am I going to do if I can't drive? I may as well not be alive. After all, it's my favourite hobby. I think the government's been a bit shabby. And the one thing I do want to mention is I wish they'd stop picking on pensioners. Palfreeman.
This is my last topic. This is a deep political one. I'm sorry, I can't go into the humour anymore. This is with apologies to Lewis Carroll. And it goes like this.
Did you write this, Tony?
Lewis and me together. It's called Vigilance, and it's political, so I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
Alice sat still with her hands in her lap. As Walrus woke up and shuffled and flapped. "Can I ask you a question?" he said as he curled up his tusks. "Suppose so," sighed Alice. "Make it clear and short." "What's a democracy?" asked Walrus of Alice. "It's about people," said Alice, "and their animal friends, and it's for them, and it's by them, and it's deciding their lives, and it's talking and voting, and order and peace, and loving and caring." "Well then," said Walrus, "why are we sending our boys and our girls to the edge of the field to shoot other kids and be shot themselves?" "Now there's a conundrum," said Alice. "We didn't vote to go killing and bombing." "It sure is a con then," said Walrus, "but I can't see the conundrum. Votes are as useless as Walrus's tusks." And he rolled himself over and went back to sleep. "So much for vigilance," said Alice.
Okay, so this is another poem of my father's, Boleyn Wilson, and it was written in 1978, and it relates to a time when I was living in Balhannah, which is in the Adelaide Hills. At the time, it was about a fox that used to sort of maraud around the neighbourhood. A rustling movement in the deep green vines makes watcher aware of the fox behind the scented pine trees. In the needled ground, warm in their earth, fox cubs sleep sound, and behind the railings near the shed, where the black bull is daily fed, a figure gazes through the walnut trees. On the high grass bank, and a gentle breeze softly touches the blossoms and sends the snow floating gently down the road below. From the gaunt old gum by the pine grove side, gnarled limbs point with ancient pride to a stone-white farmhouse below the road, comes the plaintive cry of the cruel black crow. And now from the forest with furtive glances advances the fox. Thus this scene enhances the pastoral magic of these hills, where singing sounds and colours spill. The fox next straightens, then the nostrils lift to the scent on the air's sweet fragrant drift. Of pears in the orchard all golden hung, of apples warm earth and rose sung, all dazzled red, clear orange and yellow, and the low mellow tones of the old bulls below. Satisfied now that his world is safe, the fox leaves the shelter of his pine estate and down the slope past gum and walnut, placing his paws so he will be sure not to leave his spoor or a telltale trace of his recent progress across this place, down the blackberried bank and across the tar of the metalled road and the gates ajar, through it and see by the plum-pink tree he feels secure and he knows he's free. The watcher now moves at a cautious rate up the quiet road and through the gate and into the farmhouse, white and squatting, to a window place for waiting, watching. Doubtless the fox has heard him coming and hides, takes cover with much low cunning behind the duck pen amongst the logs from the willows sawn, where the fall has clogged the creek and still as a bridge are used to cross its waters if one should choose, from the garden flat where the poplars grow to the quince tree bank with its golden show, where Muscovy, Campbell and Indian runner sleep in the shade of the trees all summer. And this is where, thought the fox, I'll end my hunt, though I'm sorry I must offend the farmer by taking one of his drakes and dragging it home for survival's sake. The face at the window is most concerned, the fox is gone, he has not returned. Then from the pen and across the logs flashes a bolt of the leather flog, and then it crashes like a ball to the pickets, the ducks grow raucous and the drake's life flickers. From the fox's jaw now the drake is swung and is plunging about on the homeward run. The innocent calves in the field below lift their heads, but the fox is gone, and the face at the window smiles serenely, for the killer has made his strike so cleanly that he feels no sorry for the farmyard's loss. Old Red has escaped with the vixen's wrath. For the jolly royal feast he now provides for his family, and his blood subsides, and the homeward race to his pine estate, with the added load of the drake's dead weight. The crow glares down from his grandstand seat, and he caws his approval of the scene beneath. And his fair-haired tenant of this little farm sees nature's cruel balance and all its charm, and the walnut trees and the banks shine white and shed their petals in the pale sunlight.
Lenny.
Well, as soon as we had a very bit of divorce for him, I thought maybe I'd come back with the other end of it. You know, it's all very nice and rosy. I guess I'll have to find another. It is true I lusted after you, as it is true that in loving you I forgot how to lust. For having gone to the other home, fulfilling love of your embrace, that gaze you look when I was by your side, bade me feel the same way too. Whatever is the world can bring, I found in you a soothing peace, a searching I would release, and when the torrent came, I found myself without you again.
Kerrie.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
I already brought one with me, sorry.
Right.
Didn't realise.
Okay.
Time for a drink.
How do you?
Yes. No, I'll still defer. I only brought one.
Time for a drink.
Time for a drink.
Time for a drink.
Time for a drink, and we'll start again.
You got more power?
Where's the bed?
I don't. Next time, I'll bring all
There's
of
booze in it, you want
and
to
you'll
do
be
the time.
sorry you asked me.
I know I'm going to sound like a broken record.
No. Well, I have a theory that no one else supports. And when someone reads a good poem, they would read it several times, one after the other, so that people can catch it. You know, 3 times.
3 times, right. Here's time number 2. Poetry is just a bit of showetry. A little puppetry in symmetry. paltry pedantry of pageantry, a bijouterie in the ministry of sophistry, where the peasantry have an entry to industry in prosody, balladry, minstrelsy, and rhythmic artistry. Now, wasn't that a luxury of pleasantry?
How very
Thom, Boleyn.
I didn't know you had that in your
Yes, indeed.
Well, he knows. That's something you every day, don't you? That's great. He's got to get you laughing before he starts.
Speak to the microphone from. Righto. This is a poem that Les Murray got particularly liked. It's called Last Hellos. It's about his dad dying. Cecil. Cecil was a great axeman and a great forester. He had to be because his old man disowned him and left him no land, and it was a consequence of him calling on him to come and cut down a very nasty big tree on the property, which he took a long look at and said, I won't do it, it's too dangerous. And the old man forced his younger brother to do it instead, and he knew far less about timber than Les's dad, and he cut the tree and killed him. And the old man never forgave him for not doing the job, and virtually disowned him. So he started from nothing with no land and had to be a timber worker most of his life. Anyway, up there at Bunya, Cecil's got a lane named after him, and he was a remarkable bloke in terms of the respect he had locally, and this is Last Hellos. Les says people don't say goodbye anymore, they come and say hello, but they're Last Hellos. Don't die, Dad, but they die. Last year he was wandery, took off a new chainsaw blade and cobbled a spare from bits. Perhaps if I lay down my head I'll come better again. His left shoulder kept rising higher in his cardigan. He could see death in the face. Family used to call him in to look at sick ones and say. At his own time, he was told. The knob found in his head was duck egg size. 2 to 6 months, Cecil. I'll be all right, he boomed to his poor sister on the phone. I'll do that when I've finished dying. Don't die, Cecil, but they do. Going for last drives in the bush. Odd, massive board slotted stumps, bony white in whipstick, second growth. I could chop all day. I could always cash a cheque in Sydney or anywhere, any of the shops. Eating, still at the head of the table. He now missed food on his knife side. Sorry, Dad, but, have you forgiven your enemies? Your father and all them? All his lifetime of hurt? I must have, grinned. I don't think about that now. People can't say goodbye anymore, they say last hellos. Going fast over Christmas, he still stumbled out of his room where his photos hung over the other furniture and pay host to his mourners. The courage of his bluster, firm big voice of his confusion. 2 last days in the hospital. His long forearms were still red mahogany, his hands gripped steel frame. I'm dying. On the 2nd day, you're busted to talk, but I'm too busy dying. Grief ended when he died. The widower like soldiers who won't live life their mates missed. Good boy, Cecil. No more bluey dog. No more cow time, no more stories. We're still using your imagination. It was stronger than all ours. Your graves got littler somehow in the 3 months. More pointy as the clay shrivelled like a stuck zip in a coat. Your cricket boots are in the State Museum. Odd letters still come. 2 more's died since you, Annie and Stuart, old Stuart. On your day there was a good crowd, family and people from away, but of course a lot had gone to their own funerals first. Snobs mind us off religion nowadays, if they can. Fuck them, I wish you God.
Ronnie.
Oh,
Ronzi.
Ronzi. You're on.
You're on. You're on, mate.
Half of it, I suppose.
Get through the other half. Sit closer so we can hear you confused.
Oh, he'll hear me.
Good. Oh, we just make a prop.
Claude's my name. I'm a cattle dog in town. There ain't no cows or bulls to chase around. So I chase cars. I bite the postman's leg. I kill the neighbour's chook. That's why I'm tied up down the back, full of feathers, feather crook. Sometimes I let in the house, usually Friday nights. Me boss throws me scraps of bits or a nice swallow enormous bloody bites. He swallows enormous bloody bites. Like last Friday, excited. Was invited in for tea to watch the telly, just me boss and me. Outside the wind blew ferociously across the ridge, bringing with it dust. Me boss grabbed a tinny from the fridge and settled on the couch. And I settled on the couch and that's all I know.
He wants to go out for a pee. And the boss says, "Shut up! Lay down, you lousy dog."
I give up. I'll just sit here and correct
And he'd be
that.
happy.
You're very brave, Ron. The rest of us have got notes. You know. We're on site.
He's the only view. He's the best mate a man could ever have. All I want to do is go outside and do a pee.
Oi, give us a short one, Ron.
And his wife comes home. He says, "There you are, you lousy loafing log, lying on the lounge, having another washing up. Put out that bloody dog."
I was sitting by the waterhole at one night when the Abbey come and sung a love song clear and bright. He said, "If it only holds a claw and touch your little nipper, I'd be yours forevermore and you would be my Sheila. I feel for you, my shell goes soft. I give up masturbation." And I've forgotten the rest of that. I'd be yours forevermore and you'd be my own crustacean.
We could do it in the mud and have lots of little nippers. Can you hear me there?
You're going to prompt me, are you?
I thought that's what you wanted me to do. All right. Cut that one.
All right.
Don't ask me, I'm nothing up to offer.
So I'll introduce the next one.
It's my turn to go, is it?
Well, have you finished?
Yeah. What about Pinkala? You do that one so well.
What?
Pinkala. I'm just a little Pinkala.
I'm a little
Bring on the
Pinkala,
highway.
living off the highway tar, living eating off the road. Wheat that spills from someone's load, fighting for the finest greed, but disgusted with me partner's greed, and flying high to avoid the cars that often flattened slow to Lars, and landing on the road once more to get the wheat I missed before. Just then I found a lovely bit of grain that made the other wheat look plain. Nice and rounded, but it had fallen in the rut. And my friends were squawking, "Here's a car, get off the road, you mad killer." I didn't fly. I just about got that delicious bit of grain dug out. And my friends were squawking, making quite a fuss. "Get off the road, there comes a bus." I didn't fly. I just about got that delicious bit of grain dug out. And
now I'm feeling rather sad, sore and sad. There I am.
Yeah, that was good.
Thom, that's very unusual.
And now I'm feeling rather sad. I'll
Well, have a think about it and we'll come back to you. The next, would you like to introduce the next person on? What is that?
Bolton.
Robert Bolton.
Are you sure you finished that?
Are you sure you finished that?
I better go and get back in position, I suppose.
You can stay there if you want.
Yeah.
Huh?
You can stay there, Robert will stay here.
No rules.
No rules.
Oh.
Hey.
There we go.
Mind your way.
You brought your hands, we could have been. You could have shouted them.
Might booze, I would have.
Well, this poem, like keeps speaking the Facebook vernacular, reckon that most of Dad's poems were about I unlove you. This is set in a drive at night across Victoria, but what it's about is I unlove you, or unlove you. Night drive, midnight in Gippsland. The road floats at our head like a woolen stocking falling in starlight over the comfortable contours of a bed. If I owned this night, I'd give it to you. Dress you in flowered lace in the darkness of paddocks, farmyards, places where your hair loses itself in the shadows of old-fashioned buildings. I could take star sights on the moments of our unravelling, more precise than the placement of farm machines at the edge of a wagon crop, or the unambiguous reds and greys of dead service stations in moonlight. A back door clatters in clear distance. Far off engines moan on a fold of grainland, farmers working at night foreshadowing rain. This is a night when flowers are faded to grey like diminutive birds in the shadows of weathered verandas of pubs. The black wheels drum at silence, filling the dark. Silence on our matter is best for this night, and this road, on the back street of some small township, where wah wah love plays late behind a sleep outdoor. In the end, won't loving intentions bring us gifts of love with further loving consequences? I see. Beside this dark road there are peace, quiet, small night movements of people and creatures hoping for better. When we no longer look to each other, the still stars and planets will be as crisp and soft as our first feelings, as they've never lost their first. Warwick.
Who's there? There's Warwick.
Oh, Warwick.
The Arts Council, Wollombi Arts Council, is always in the news, and
the latest war that we're in is over the building at the front. That was built largely by the Arts Council and the Valley Artists and Theatre Group and the museum, the Historical Society next door. But since we built it, the council doesn't like it being a WCC, a Wollombi Cultural Centre. They want to turn it into a WC. They just want a public toilet there to service the tourist buses. It is shameful. It's so banal. It's just so Australian. Anyway, another of Andrew's poems, Andrew Hull, and it's called The Western Men's Association. Take off my glasses something. There have been rumours of a movement sweeping fast across the land. Some say that it's random, others say it's planned. But when it comes to light the bush, we'll shake. When it comes to light the bush, we'll shake to its foundation. It's the fight for who will lead the Western Men's Association. Ever since the first meeting all those years ago, there have been disputes about the man most fit to run the show. Many thought John Wandholm to be made of the right stuff, but Big Mick put his hand up and that was good enough. Big Mick watched his numbers swell and influence expand right through New South Wales and a small portion of Queensland. The group grew in size and strength, wealth and reputation. They were queuing up to join the Western Men's Association. Now, for those of you who haven't heard about the Western Men, they're a most auspicious group of assembled brethren throughout property, industry, the government and hire, and each of them a highly skilled rogue thief and liar. So you can see the sort of people this organisation attracts, that they've never been caught or linked to these foul acts, and all have been subjected to the secret initiation before they got sworn into the Western Men's Association. There may be secret handshakes, as many people think, and there's much that can be said with a well-placed nod and wink. But the benefits for the members are too many to be named. Of course, it's not official, just what somebody once claimed. So anything worth mentioning throughout this big wide land can be traced one way or another back to a Western man. But though both membership and leadership are very highly prized, the secret meetings of the group are never advertised. Success criteria. And this is why Big Mick has lately been accused of cheating. Because when John goes out of town, Big Mick calls a general meeting. And since the role of a president attracts no nomination, Big Mick consents to lead the Western Men's Association. Now all of this is rumour. I just heard it in the town. And a Western man would never ever stoop to write it down. For being caught cheating breaks the 11th commandment. And Big Mick's actions could result in the Western Men's disbandment. Because lying, roguing and thieving are all fair and honest sports. But you're doomed to be excluded if you ever get caught. So take note, next time John leaves town, could be a real sensation if Big Mick calls a general meeting of the Western Men's Association.
Half's better than nothing at all.
Can I cheat and just read a little short one from,
No.
I think Philip Larkin was the poet laureate, wasn't he, for a while?
He was.
Yeah.
And this is this is my favourite, Philip Larkin. And then I want to do another one after this. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Morning, noon and bloody night, 7 sodding days a week, I slave at filthy work that might be done by any other work drunk freak. This goes on till I kick the bucket, fuck it. Uncle Percy bought a car, phoned to say he'd bring it round. It was a kind of a convertible. He said a little bit rough and ready, not registered or insured, but otherwise quite sound. So we waited all the later and debated what he'd stated and decided he'd be fated when he showed up in his pride. The suspense was really building into something quite exciting. It was almost like awaiting the arrival of a bride. Then up he drove in his new purchase, and we went into shock. We hoped he'd got it very cheap and not gone into hock. It was a kind of a jalopy that had a going over. Its appearance was simply sloppy, but it had a badge that said Land Rover. It was grey and blue on the right side, blue-green on the left. The symmetry of its styling, it was simply quite bereft. It had a canvas top and roll-up windows on the side, finished tyres up front, back ones that were wide. He bought it from a mate that had been in a couple of dings, but Uncle Percy wasn't one to worry about paintwork and such things. It started and it stopped with an uneasy kind of jerking, and that at least 6 cylinders, but only 4 were working. And when you let the clutch out, it went off with a shudder, and the springs were pretty dud, but the shock absorber was a dudder. But Uncle Percy, he was happy. He didn't care it wasn't pretty. At least he could get from A to B or even travel to the city. So we wished him well and waved farewell and sent him on his... And as he left in a haze of glory, but a few days later he was back again, this time with another story. As soon as he travelled down to Sydney, picked up a lady on the way. He'd offered her a lift. She'd offered him a place to stay. They just travelled across the Harbour Bridge and the traffic was moving fast. Uncle Percy heard a horn and flash-red sporty Porsche went speeding past. But up ahead there was a stoppage, and behind the bus a cop, and the sports car pulled in front of Percy and came to a sudden stop. Uncle Percy hit the brakes, but that Land Rover kept on going. That dirty old bush Basha showed no signs at all of slowing. Uncle Percy's mind raced quickly. This situation could be intense. To rear end this sporting Porsche sports car could mean hideous expense, especially with the weight and speed of this old cranky tank. So we ran up a footpath and straight into a bank. It slid along the wall, slid along the side and left a huge gash in the wall and came to a stop next to an ATM where customers were lining up to make a cash withdrawal. His passengers staggered out the back unharmed, but pale and sickly, and disappeared into the crowd that had gathered fairly quickly. Uncle Percy scrambled out and took the keys from the ignition and handed them to an onlooker looking on and said, "Here, it's yours, with my permission." Then he wandered off down the street and eventually caught a bus, and then he made his way back home to our place and stayed a while with us. But Uncle Percy often mentioned that there was someone he'd really like to thank. It was that bloke that he gave those keys to outside that York Street bank. Tony.
I'm sorry, after that there's nothing I can add, so I pass.
No, let it go.
I'm just a medium for the afternoon's poetry readings because all of these works are from my father. This one, it was always a family tradition. We used to go up to Shoal Bay, Port Stephens for holidays, and my father wrote lots of poems about that period. It was a really lovely, happy sort of time that I remember, and you wrote about Fingal Bay. I mean, you're all familiar with those sort of places, and this one, and the Banksia serrata were a really sort of common tree that you find around there in those sands, and so this one's called Old Man Banksia. It was written in 1979. Tenaciously they rise from drifting dunes, their bulbous branches ride in agony, serrated edges whistle dismal tunes, whining voices whisper eerily. The grey-green mantle that they chose to wear surrounds the fearsome cones with staring eyes and hardened evil mouths that suck and tear at gum-nut babies, innocent, terrified. They flourish where few other trees can grow. Their fierce deep roots seep down into the sand and rip with crippled claws the clay's red bowl and draw its lifeblood upwards through their hand.
Where do the other half from?
Lenny?
Lenny.
Lenny, how do you pronounce your surname?
Well, the closest I still managed to get to is Papantoniou.
Papantoniou.
Not quite accurate, but it's good enough. If you really want a short poem that doesn't require much memory, this is one I learned in Year 7 in high school. It was called Fleas, Hadyn. Hadyn. That's it. It's a deep one, you see.
No wonder I missed it.
It stayed with me all these years. Seriously, how people are talking about, our background and culture and history and everything else. My background's a little bit different. So this is my take on some of our history. Some of us were taken from our homes, some left our country, some came from broken homes. Others grew up hungry, others didn't get enough. We're all here to stumble together, burdened with joy, burdened with guilt, burdened with a past that won't give in. Take the future, shred it together. Let's take the pieces, see if we can start again.
Okay, Kerrie's gone, so...
Ron's
Ron.
trying to get up.
Come on, Ron.
Ron's been trying to do his other half, but
Yes.
Yeah, come
I can only do half one.
Yeah,
that's all right, Ron.
start in the second half.
Yeah, the second half, Ron. You can do it, Ron. Come on.
Yeah.
3 cheers for Ronsie.
Yeah, I was trying to do it, and I forgot that getting from there to here.
Trying to go back again to think about
The old dog is damn good hound. He knocks up chasing wildlife around. Especially ducks. He can't stand the damn things. He even gets cranky when the canary sings. Can't stand anything but feathers and wings. He's a damn good hound. It all began at the start of the week up at our place there at Cedar Brush Creek. I'm sitting on the log and the dog's chasing duck. And this fella turns up in an old pickup truck. He's yelling and swearing his vocabulary's poor. Can't understand it, I've never seen him before. I said, hang on, fella, what'd I do? I've never had any dealings with you. He said, your dog ate my duck. I said, damn that dog, it's no wonder you're cross, but a poor little duck can't be much of a loss. I'll pay for the bird how much of it costs. He said, I don't know yet, it might survive. It's a family pet, but it's barely alive. It's down with the vet, being revived. But what about my fence? I said, what fence? It's my fence, which I had your dog run amok to get my duck. I said, don't get tense, just give me the bill. I'll pay for the fence, fair dinkum I will. He said, you can bet your testicles you will, you Brush Creek freak. I played it kind of low key. I blame him on luck. He's blaming me on his way to his truck. But he'll be back. Sometime later, here comes a man, parking his pickup the best way he can, with a duck in his arm and a bill in his hand. He's got blood in his eye. He showed me the duck. It's a pitiful thing. Got a slit on his leg and a cast on the swing. It's just been sedated. It's not feeling any pain. It's lying there limp and stuffed in the brain. He said, we had luck with the vet. He's a Rizaboo duck. And my share of the bill was just $43. And I said, how much is the fence? He said, $17.83. So I paid him the money and I sent him away, and I haven't seen him with the duck to this day. But not long ago I heard a bloke say his dog had gotten loose and got stuck into somebody's goose. And I said, good Lord, them geese are expensive as ducks. And I said, how much was the fence? He said, $17.83. Ladies and gentlemen, if you should own a hound, be sure he's chained up safely and sound, and beware of that bloke with pickups around. If you don't, you can have the expense of $60.83. I got through one
Okay.
Down with the booze and up with Romsey. Down with the booze, going out, never mind, darling.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Next is Thom. Are you going to do another?
Yeah. I'll do another Thom speech.
Stay there, Ron.
The title of this nice collection.
You got another one?
Yeah, I have. Oh, Ron has. Well, it's about the family cat, which he cordially hated. It's called Grimalkin, which is the title of this particular slim volume. One of these days she'll lie there and be dead. I'll take her out back in a garbage bag and bury her among my son's canaries and ill-fated turtles, a pair of anglefish, the tragic and manly household pets that had the better sense to take their leaves before their welcomes. All my patients are born thin. For 12 long years I've suffered this damn cat, while Mike, my darling middle son, himself 12 years this coming May, has grown into the tender if quick-tempered man-child his breeding blessed and cursed him to become, and only his affection keeps this cat alive. Though more than once I've threatened violence, the brick and burlap in the river recompense for mounds of fur balls littering the house, choking the vacuum cleaner, or what's worse, shits in the closets, piss in the planters, mice that winter indoors safely as she sleeps curled about a table there, vigilant as any knick-knack in a partial coma. But Mike, of course, is blind to all of it. The grey Angora breed of arrogance, the sluttish roar, the way she disappears for days, sex desperate, once or twice a year, urgently ripping her way out the screen door to have her way with anything that moves, while Mike sits up with tuna fish and worry, crying into the darkness, mindless of her whorish treacheries or of her crimes against upholsteries, the sofas, love seats, wingbacks, easy chairs she's puked and mauled into dilapidation. I have this reoccurring dream of driving her deep into the desert east of town and dumping her out there with a few days' feed and water. In the dream she's always found by kindly tribespeople who eat her kind on certain holy days as a form of penance. God knows I don't know what he sees in her. Sometimes he holds her like a child in his arms, rubbing her underside until she sounds like one of those battery-powered vibrators folks claim to use for the ache in their shoulders. And under Mike's protection she will fix her indolent, green-eyed gaze on me as if to say, what are you going to do about it, slick? The child loves me and you love the child. Truth told, I really ought to have it fixed in the old way with airtight alibi. A bag of ready mix and no eyewitnesses, but one of these days she'll lie there and be dead. And choking back loud hallelujahs, I'll pretend a brief bereavement for my Michael's sake, letting him think, as he has often said, deep down inside you really love her, don't you, Dad? I'll even hold some cheerful obsequies, careful to observe God's never-failing care of even these, the least of his creatures, making some mention of cat heaven where cat ashes to ashes, cat dust to dust, and the Lord gives and the Lord has taken away, thus claiming my innocence to the end. I'll turn Mike homeward from that wicked little grave, and if he asks, we'll get another one, because all boys need practice in the arts of love, and all boys ageing fathers in the arts of rage.
You got another one, Ron?
What's another one?
I'm not down. I'm worn out.
All right. Well, we'll go on to Robert Bolton.
Come and sit down again if you've remembered.
No. We'll have to write them down. We'll have to write them down one week. We'll have to give them written next time. No, next time. Next time.
Now, is this the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This is it.
This is it. Okay. One little last one. Where I lived in France for a number of years, they called it the land of the meteorite. A meteor shower had landed there and created a lot of little lakes all around. And in the summer we used to go, of course they were all surrounded by lovely deciduous trees and all that stuff, like an impressionist painting. We'd go over there and swim in one of these lakes. This was about an afternoon we'd been swimming. And they're shallow lakes and you can sort of quite warm to the top, sort of couple of feet, but your feet would be down, your toes would be down in nice cool mud. So this is about an afternoon where we had a swim in one of those lakes, and I came back, and the poem's called Reading Late. I think Thom read this here once before. I hope the audience is not read again. The room was motionless. The land was dark. My book lay in a pond of light. I read that night until the book became a pond. Became a quiet afternoon, a shallow lake, insects sitting lightly on a mirror. The words became a world without a book, became a living lake all round the room, until the words became a summer night, as perfect as the thought of afternoon and water, and my feet stirring cool places in a peaky deep, calm as the poem. A summer afternoon as flawless as the silent summer night, peaceable in lamplight, reading late.
You got another one more?
Well, I don't. So I might wrap it up if you
Wrap up.
Oh, this
Unless there's anyone.
unless there's any. You got another one?
I want McGee, I want a request from the floor. We have Louise.
Oh, yeah.
Louise. The shortest poem of the day. Louise, please.
Well, there was this drover named Bill, came from Peak Hill, just down the track out Narromine way, and he lived on the plains in the stock routes out west, and he'd been as far north as Queensland, they say. And he had a good name in the tough cattle game, and he didn't seek fortune, and he didn't seek fame, and he had plenty of mates and no family. And of course, like every good drover, was fond of his horse. But don't let me pass here without impressing upon you that his very best friend was his blue hoover. Blue. Blue was his mate and his right-hand man, and he could be just as handy as any man can. He could round up the cattle, bring in the strays, settle them down at night on hot, thirsty days, and he knew every cow and every bull, every calf. And he was never a dog to do things by half. He could gather up sticks for the campfire at night. He could fetch a buoy of water from the creek without a light, and by holding a match in his mouth on a box with one paw, he could strike a light and have the campfire lit and that buoy boiling before you could say glory and a war. And he never complained, he just saw it as his duty. As cattle dogs go, old Blue was a beauty. Now, Bill had a mob up near Warwick on the Cumberland Chance Road, and he spotted something odd, and he got down off his horse and he said, well, I'll be blowed. There on the ground, just near his leg, was a perfect, unbroken, huge emu egg. So Bill picked it up and put it in his kit and thought later on I'll make an omelette out of it. So later that evening when they were setting up camp, he remembered the egg and he lit up his lamp and he went to his swag to begin cooking the fare, but the egg had hatched out and the chicken sat there. Well, Bill just laughed and made up a coop and thought later on I'll have emu soup. So the bird hung around eating scraps from the camp and stuff off the ground and grew bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until finally the thing was nearly full grown and started treating Bill as if it was his own. Well, that was right. Bill didn't mind, like most starving men, he was really quite kind. But then only he began doing more. One night it started washing the pots. Well, Bill stood back in awe. Well, time went by, as you can guess. As the emu did more, old Blue did less. Here was this bird at the end of his life. Now, Bill was acting like he'd taken a wife. Fry me a steak petite bird, you would say. Make it well done, I like it that way. And then he said about cooking the dinner. And while Bill got fatter, old Blue got thinner and meaner and nastier. You see that trouble you see? Well, he now thought that the bird was closer to his master than he was. Time went by and old Blue kept his cool, but the union just treated the old dog like a fool. But then came the biggest insult of all, if you please. Bill named the EU, and he called it Louise. That was when the old dog ruled up the huff. He decided right then he'd had enough. He confronted the bird, trembling with rage and growled at the threat of the war would wage. I'll rip out your heart and scream through your bark. I'll tear off your leg. I'll rip you apart. There's certainly no way to talk to a lady, but you have to remember this dog had gone crazy. He was so jealous, in fact, he'd started to turn green. He was the greenest blue dog you've ever seen. And then he exploded with a bang and a hiss, and the emu retaliated by paying a kiss. Well, Bill took a leap at the emu's throat and just grabbed him and shook him like an old leather coat. Then it took him with its foot and it spun him around and flung him down hard on the ground. Old Blue just lay there, didn't make a sound. Well, it's years later now, and old Blue and Bill have retired and living back out of Peak Hill. Louise still cooks and looks after the house. But old Blue sits around as quiet as a mouse with his sorrowful eyes and his broken heart. He feels that in Bill has drifted apart. But there's one thing Bill and Blue still don't know this day. And if Blue had known on that folk, there's one thing Blue and Blue still don't know. And if Blue had known on that fateful day, he may not have struck the first blow, because the whole sad affair is a bit of a joke. That emu named Louise is really a bloke.
Any more?
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that.
Anybody else? Please. I think that's a great into it, Peter.
Yeah.
I love to hear that kind of every time. I think what Kerrie's teacher said is true. Poetry is a joy. It's always fun.
Yeah.
And today we've had some real masters of real wordsmiths, masters of language, and it's been wonderful to share it with you all. And I think we should all give ourselves a hand. Thanks for coming to Wollombi Cultural Centre, and let's hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks, Warwick.
Thank you.
Warwick.
Thank you.